I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Honourable Member for Knowsley and I published our report on TIDE, type 1 diabetes and disordered eating, a condition estimated to affect over a quarter of type 1 diabetics in the UK. It is life-shortening, life-threatening, and can lead to death. I picked up some cheese, put it on a plate, and was transferring it to the table. The cheese fell on the floor. I had a split-second decision to make. I picked up the cheese, put it on the plate, and put it on the table. And I turned round to see that my every move had been watched very carefully by Her Majesty the Queen. I looked at her, she looked at me, and she just smiled. And the cheese remained on the table. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I congratulate my right honourable friend and welcome her to her position as the third female United Kingdom. Can I ask my right honourable friend, why does she think it is that all three female Prime Ministers have been Conservative?
My right honourable friend for her fantastic question. I look forward to calling on her advice from her time in office as I start.
Theresa May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The COVID regulations impose significant restrictions on the freedoms of members of the public. They had a right to expect their Prime Minister to have read the rules, to understand the meaning of the rules, and indeed those around him to have done so too, and to set an example in following those rules. What the Gray report does show is that number 10 Downing Street was not observing the regulations they had imposed on members of the public. So either my right honourable friend had not read the rules, or didn't understand what they meant, and others around him, or they didn't think the rules applied to number 10. Which was it?
Finally, I call the mother of the House, Harriet Harman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always a historic moment when a Prime Minister leaves office, especially when the country faces such difficult times as we do ahead. But her departure marks another milestone, because though we're on to our 77th Prime Minister now, she is only the second woman ever to have held that office. And she put tackling human trafficking and the horrors of domestic violence as a priority at the heart of her government. And can I say that in that respect, her legacy is secure, because everyone in this House backs that, and we will all be committed to taking that forward. Even her harshest critics must recognise her integrity, her commitment to public service, her dedication to this country, and those are qualities that none of us should ever take for granted. But can I just offer her a word of sisterly advice? Sometimes you just have to be a bit more careful when a man wants to hold your hand. I thank her for her service as our Prime Minister, and I sincerely wish her all the very best for the future.
Prime Minister!
Well, can I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her question? And of course, the Right Honourable Lady joined this House in 1982 when there was a female Prime Minister, but very few women in this House. And she has played a very important role, and she can be proud of the role that she played in ensuring that more women came into this House as Labour members of Parliament. And she started something which has started to change the face of this House, which has been very important. I, of course, came here in 1997 as one of only 13 Conservative women, and indeed one Labour Member of Parliament approached me to encourage me to sign the private members' bill list because he assumed as I was a woman I must have been a Labour Member of Parliament. But I'm also proud to have played my part in getting more women MPs in this House, and I'm sure that amongst the women in this House today there is a future Prime Minister, maybe more than one. Later today, as I said earlier, I will return to the back benches, and it will be my first time in 21 years, so it's going to be quite a change from standing here at the dispatch box. I'm told that over the last 3 years I've answered over 4,500 questions, over 140 hours in this House. More than I might have expected, Mr. Speaker. In future, I look forward to asking the questions. But we are, as the Right Honourable Lady has said, living through extraordinary political times. This House of Commons is rightly at the centre of those events. And that's because of the vital link between every single member of this House and the communities, the commons that we represent. That's the bedrock of our parliamentary democracy and of our liberty. And each one of us, wherever we sit, whatever we stand for, can take pride in that. And that duty to serve my constituents will remain my greatest motivation. Call a vote of no confidence. Then they said they wouldn't. Then he said he would. Then it wasn't effective. I know it's Christmas. I know it's Christmas. I know it's Christmas.
Order! Members must not shout at the Prime Minister. Order! Calm yourselves. Try to get into the Christmas spirit. Or if you can't do that, at least listen to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They said they'd put down a vote of no confidence, then they said they wouldn't, then they said they would, then they did it but it wasn't effective. I know it's the Christmas season and the pantomime season, but what do we see from the Labour front bench and the Right Honourable Gentleman? He's going to put a confidence vote. Oh yes he is. Oh no he isn't. I've got some news for him. I've got some advice for the Right Honourable Gentleman. Look behind you. They're not impressed and neither's the country. In a country that works for everyone, it doesn't matter where you were born or how much your parents earn. If you work hard and do the right thing, you will be able to go as far as you can. I want this country to be a great meritocracy. I want to see more houses built, better productivity so we can have more well-paid jobs, more economic growth, not just in the southeast of England, but across the whole country to help more people get on. But more than anything else, I want to see children from ordinary working class families given the chances their richer contemporaries take for granted. That means we need more great schools. This is the plan to deliver them and to set Britain on the path to being the great meritocracy of the world. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that the whole House will wish to join me in welcoming today's employment figures, which show employment at another record high and the lowest unemployment rate in over a decade, and wages rising. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today. I have just been to Buckingham Palace, where Her Majesty the Queen has asked me to form a new government, and I accepted. But as to why I'm the best person who can negotiate with Angela Merkel, well, I would simply say this. I mean, I have done this. I have sat round the table. I know what it's like in those European meetings. I've not just done it, I've delivered on negotiations. Now, of course, you know, I know other people have also negotiated in Europe. I mean, I think Boris negotiated in Europe. I seem to remember last time he did a deal with the Germans, he came back with 3 nearly new water cannons. Faisal. Mr. Speaker, 27 years ago, the terrible events of Saturday, the 15th of April, 1989, shocked this country and devastated a community. That afternoon, as thousands of fans were preparing to watch the FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, a crush developed in the central pens of the Leppings Lane terrace. 96 men, women and children lost their lives as a result. Hundreds more were injured and many were left traumatised. It was this country's worst disaster at a sporting event. But however strict the bail conditions, I continue to believe Qatada should remain behind bars. Mr. Speaker, it simply isn't acceptable that after guarantees from the Jordanians about his treatment, after British courts have found that he is dangerous, after his removal has been approved by the highest courts in our land, we still cannot deport dangerous foreign nationals. We continue to consider the case for a British Bill of Rights, and the Prime Minister is leading the government's attempts to reform the European Court of Human Rights. The right place for a terrorist is in a prison cell. The right place for a foreign terrorist is a foreign prison cell far away from Britain. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for this opportunity to make my maiden speech in this important debate this afternoon. As I was preparing for this speech, I looked at some of the maiden speeches that had been made by honourable members in the weeks before the recess. And I noted that in her maiden speech, the honourable member for Cumbernauld and Kilsyth, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, made reference to an incident where she had been mistaken by a taxi driver for the wife of a Labour Member of Parliament rather than being a Member of Parliament herself. I have to say that sadly, mistaken identity is not confined to the Labour benches. My own confusion was somewhat great when I was in the members' lobby and the Honourable Member for Dundee West rushed up to me in a state of some confusion and encouraged me to put my name on the list for the ballot for private members' bills. He was a little astounded when I just looked at him and said, why? Because he obviously had mistaken me for one of the ladies on the other side. I have to say, I was told, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that one was never intervened or heckled in a maiden speech. Obviously, that takes account of the opposite side of the House, not our own supporters. Thank you. But the further confusion has ensued in my early days in this House. I did have to take great pains when I first came in to point out to my honourable colleagues that I was the member for Maidenhead and not Maidstone, which was particularly pertinent in the early days of this Parliament. Being a Conservative member called Theresa also adds a certain interest to life in the House. And I am thinking of getting a badge that says, no, I'm the other one. And perhaps in view of the fact of the potential origin of the town's name, in the symbol of the maiden's head, it is entirely appropriate that it should now be represented by a maiden. Albeit, I must confess to using the term somewhat loosely.